Hello everyone, welcome back to another YouTube video. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. In this video I have a Lightroom Classic editing tutorial. So I recently did a photo shoot with Ari, that's our model for the shoot, and I sort of want to show you guys like kind of like my workflow of how how I like to edit my photos. So you can see my settings here in the top left. I used the 85 mil from Viltrox, which is a really good lens. It's a really sharp lens, and my shutter speed was at 2000 of a second, aperture 1.8, and ISO 125. So I'm go ahead and hide that so I can see a cleaner view here of the photo. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come into the crop, and then I'm gonna sort of do a tighter pull here, crop in a little bit. Try to get her a little bit centered in the photo. And I think I like that. So I'm gonna come here in the basics tab with the highlights and all that. I'm gonna mess around a little bit and see what I could come up with. So I'm gonna maybe like drop the exposure a little bit because it's a little bit overexposed, and mess with the highlights. I think I'm gonna leave the highlights. I might bring the shadows out a little bit. I think right about there. Yeah, I'm gonna bring the whites down a tad bit. Maybe up. No, I'm gonna bring them down a little bit around like -7. And then I'm gonna drop the blacks a little bit around there. Alright, I think that looks good. And I'm gonna come up to the temperature knob here, temperature slider here. I'm gonna slide it a little bit to the left, make the photo a little bit warmer. So I think about that. Think about that looks good. Okay, I do like that. So I'm gonna come down here to the tone curve, and with the tone curve you could pretty much create a certain look to whatever look you want. So I'm going to come here by the shadows, the blacks down here. I'm gonna pull up on that point, and I'm gonna create another point around like here. I'm gonna pull down to about there. Then I'm gonna come to like the middle point here, and I'm gonna raise it up a bit. So before, and that's after the tone curve adjustments we just made. I might pull up a little bit more. Not too, that's a little bit too much. So with this curve, what I'm doing is creating a little bit of contrast in the photo without actually touching the contrast slider. So I'll mess around a little bit and tweak it until I get something that I like. Gonna come to the top here and pull that down a little bit to create like a matte kind of effect in the highlights. So I think that looks good. Let's do it before and after. So that's before all the adjustments we made, and that's after. I might come back to the crop again and just pull in a little bit more, get a little bit more closer. Yeah, I think that looks good. I want to mess around with the temperature a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna go warmer. Okay, so around there. I don't want to make it too warm, but that looks really good right there. So I'm gonna come down to sharpening, and I'm going to hold Alt and then pull up the masking, and you can sort of see where the sharpening is taking effect. So whichever part is white, that's what is getting sharpened, and whichever part is black, that's what's being left alone. So I'm gonna pull up until our model, a little bit of the environment and our model I want to be sharpened, but mainly the model. So I'm gonna pull up a brown there, so I see the model is kind of white a little bit, and I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna pull up sharpening. I don't want to over sharpen a photo, so I'm gonna leave it around like 50. I think that looks pretty. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna do a before and after of the sharpening. So that's before the sharpening, and that's after. So I do like that. So I'm gonna come here to the tone curve again, and I'm gonna try to add some color to the image. Now you can do this two ways. You can do this with the tone curve, and then you can do this with the color grading. It's all preference, and also you can manipulate colors as well with the camera calibration. But I'm gonna try to mess around with the tone curve and see what I could create. If not, then I'll try to do something with the color grading. I'm gonna pull up on this point here, kind of add some blues to the blacks or the shadows. So if I exaggerate that, you can see it's pretty blue in the shadows, which I kind of like that, honestly. So I think I'm gonna leave that there, but I'm gonna pull down here around there, maybe a little bit more. So yeah, I kind of like that, but I'm not gonna exaggerate it too much. So let's do a before of after of that. So that's before and that's after. So you can sort of see the same thing where we did with the regular part here, where we brought up the black point. It adds a little bit of fade. It adds a little bit of fade to the image. Sorry, that was my phone. Add a little bit of fade to the image, and it sort of does the same thing with the blues in the shadows. So I'm gonna see if I could mess around a little bit more. Just try to get it looking really, really good. Okay, I think that looks good. I like that. It might be a little bit too much. So I'm gonna pull it down a little bit more. And I think that looks good. So now I'm going to come to my color grading. And I'm gonna go to the highlights, and I'm gonna look around. I'm gonna exaggerate it first of all, so I could see what it's doing. And I'm gonna look for a color, maybe a warmer color that I want to add to the highlights of this image. And actually, I think here looks pretty good around here. So I'm gonna back off the effect a little bit so it's not like overbearing. So around like that. So I'm gonna do a before of after of the color grading. So that's a before and that's after. It's just a very subtle effect. Maybe a little bit more. Around like there. Let's see if there's another color that looks good. I really like this kind of greeny blue right here. It's giving me a little bit of a film vibe, like a vintage film vibe. I like this right here. So I'm gonna back off the saturation a little bit so it's not too much. So that's a before and that's an after. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone because I don't want to add more color to the shadows when I already did that with the tone curve. So I think that looks pretty good. Okay, we already sharpened our image, and I'm not gonna really mess with anything in the HSL sliders because I think everything here looks good. I might um bring up the saturation just a tad bit, around like 2. And I'm gonna leave the luminance alone because what the oranges is doing is kind of like manipulating her skin tones, which I kind of don't want to change because it looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna leave it around like there. Then I'm gonna make sure that this image is straight because it doesn't look straight to me. So I'm gonna like that. I think that looks pretty good. All right, I like that. I'm gonna come to the tint and I'm gonna pull it a little bit. I'm gonna pull it a little bit to the left and see how that looks. It's making it kind of green, so I might go to the right, make it a little bit purple, pink purple, a little bit there. And I like that. That looks pretty good to me. So let's do a final before and after. So this was before all the adjustments we made, and this is after the adjustments we made. So you could take this a step further and go ahead and skin retouch, but I'm just gonna skip that part for now. Might bring the highlights a little bit down, actually, around like -6. And that really gives the photo a good balance. Nothing is too bright, nothing is too dark. You could sort of see everything in the photo, and I really like that. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and see how I kind of like to edit my photos. I kept it really simple for this one because, to be honest, this photo didn't really needed much heavy editing because it looked pretty good straight out of the camera. And that's what I want you to understand. Like, you don't really have to go overboard with editing. Just a simple tweak of a knob or whatnot could do the trick. So that's why I kept it simple here. So again, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.